If the children want to come up, I wish to teach you a new word by a little demonstration. So I don't know if you remember, a couple weeks ago, I told you about a story where I was on my bicycle and I had a flat tire. And this is the tube that went flat. And so if you hook this thing up and try to pump it up, what happens, see how it starts to get big, but then suddenly it just, like, all the air comes right back out of it because there's a hole right down here in the side of the tube. But I haven't done it yet, but at home I have this little kit, and I can take a little patch, and I can put the patch right over that hole, and it'll fix it. And after it gets fixed, it would be like this one. This is the tube that guy gave me that day. But then when you pump it up, it just gets nice and big and thick, and that's what keeps your tire going. So in essence, the word I want to teach you is restore. Restore. What I'm going to be able to do when I patch this one up, I'm going to be able to restore it, put it back to the way it's supposed to be, and then it'll hold air and I can use it. And I don't know if you ever thought about it, sometimes you get restored too. I don't know, anybody ever broken a bone? Broken an arm, something like that? Oh, a couple of you? Yeah, sorry about that. That wasn't probably your best moment. But, you went to the doctor and they helped you and your body healed it and you were restored so that your arm works as it's supposed to be. And that's the other thing that Jesus does for us. Some of you have had a chance already. Some of you, in a year or two, you're going to get to start going to confession. And that's a moment where we're kind of broken, and by confession, Jesus forgives us, and we are restored. Okay, so there's your word for the day, restore. Father Anthony is responsible for that word being on my mind most of this week. We were discussing the gospel reading, and I guess maybe like some of you, I used the word healed. Jesus healed this man by casting out the demon that was within him. It's a fine word, it's a good description, but restored just struck me as a much better word in at least some way. Because I don't know if you've ever done this, I'd encourage you to try it. When I'm doing Bible study and reading stories like this, I try to put myself in the story. So like in this case, I might, on a given time, picture myself in the crowd watching this and trying to picture, what would that be like to watch Jesus cast this demon out of this man? Sometimes, depending on the story and how I'm feeling, I'll picture myself being the person that Jesus is helping. Sometimes I'll picture myself being the disciples, which are also watching, but they're sort of insiders, as it were. But only rarely can I ever picture myself being Jesus. Because that's just that Jesus, like I'm not Jesus. It's hard to put yourself in his shoes in that moment because I don't have the gift of healing. I suspect most of you, maybe none of you, do as well. But you and I do have the gift of restoring. That was the thing, as I thought about this man, because we're not sure of his illness, it's hard to know in that day and age what it actually meant to cast out a demon. I know it's not what Hollywood portrays, so it's hard to know precisely what's going on. But so many illnesses then, as well as today, they separate you from people. Leprosy in that day and age, it was certainly any skin diseases, they thought it might be highly contagious. And so lepers were outcast in the society. And so when Jesus heals a leper, he really does restore them, not only physically, but he restores them to the community, to their families, whom they perhaps haven't seen in a long time. And so in a real way, Jesus restores this guy, makes it possible for him to enjoy the things that he would want to, what he was intended to do, family, friends, his community. And as I thought about that, in our day and age, people get to restore other people. I mentioned with the students about maybe breaking an arm, and I've often wondered if people in the medical profession really appreciate the wonderful gift that they have. You know, those of us who are a little older, you know, you go into the doctor and something's not right, and whatever it is, and sometimes they're serious diseases or whatever, and they give you some treatment, they do whatever they do, and you and I are restored. We can go back to doing the things that we had done before. What a wonderful gift that is. And even for the rest of us who don't have medical training, I'm sure there are moments, if you thought about it, where you and I are part of restoration. Someone comes to you and asks for forgiveness, and you offer that forgiveness. You have restored a relationship. Perhaps you gave up a lot to do it. Maybe it was quite difficult, but you've restored the relationship. You've taken things back to the way they should have been or the way they were. I'm assuming that would be a wonderful thing. And as I thought about this more and more, I realized that another aspect of this is in giving. I know giving is always an awkward topic in church, and please understand, I'm offering this, again, just as, if you will, an insight, not a pitch. It just dawned on me that when I give, I have the ability. Some of that money might well restore people. If I could give you a wonderful example, my last parish was very near Pinellas Hope. If that name doesn't mean anything to you, this is a ministry of the diocese. They have on that property about 250 people at any given time. Some of those people are permanently there because they would not be able to manage housing and employment, anything on their own. And so they are there, they just live there. But the bulk of the people come and stay for about 3 months, during which time Pinellas Hope does their best to restore them. These are people that ended up being homeless, perhaps through no fault of their own, perhaps through horrible decisions on their part, but they want to do better. And so Pinellas Hope puts them through this program to try to get them into stable housing, a job. They try to restore them. Since Pinellas Hope was within the boundaries of that parish, we would have been responsible for all those people had it not been for the work of the diocese. It's amazing what they do, the expertise they bring to it. I didn't have any of that expertise, and the parish certainly did not have the resources to support such a ministry. But the diocese did, and so you probably did not know it, but if you've been supporting the Catholic Ministry Appeal over the last whatever number of years that's been open, you have been restoring people to better housing and a better situation just by your giving. I found that really helpful as I thought about this connection between my giving and restoration, because sometimes you look at the news or you just think about what's around you and you feel just a little helpless. It seems like such a big problem. Homelessness would just be one, but war and famine and immigration and all that stuff, it just seems like such a huge problem. And so you think, well, I can't do anything with that. And it's true. You and I, by ourselves, what are we going to be able to do? But when we offer some resources to agencies that are good at what they do and know what they're doing, and my little bits that I chip in combines with a little bit that a whole lot of other people chip in, suddenly things are quite possible. And that is why Father Anthony and I are really quite happy to give to the Catholic Ministry Appeal every year, because they are pretty good at what they do, and we know probably more than you do about all the ministries that they do, and so many of them help restore people. Let me just end with one last example, something a little odd that I just ran across the other day. There was a gentleman from Spirit FM, that's the diocesan radio station. Many of you probably don't listen to it. It's contemporary music, which isn't, of course, everyone's style, contemporary Christian music. But they often, it seems, get letters from people who will write something like, I was in a particularly bad moment in my life, a bad season in my life, and I just hit scan on the radio, and your station came on. And then they go on to talk about what listening to that music and listening to the host that are there, what that did for them and how that changed them, how that restored them. I'm not sure until I heard that little story that I would have made much of a connection between a radio station and restoring people, but it happens. So today is the official commitment Sunday for the Catholic Ministry Appeal. Some of you graciously, you got something in the mail, even I think in November or December. You already sent it back. Terrific. Some of you just got it a few weeks ago. You sent it back. That's great. If you have not, if you haven't contributed this year, any year, whatever, all we're asking that you do as you're leaving, there's a table there. It's got a little brochure about the appeal. It's got an envelope. Just take it with you. You don't have to fill it out here. You can if you want, but you don't have to. But take it with you, and take a look at what the diocese is doing. And I encourage you to take it to prayer. And if you think that the Lord is calling you to contribute, as so many people around here do, to help restore people, then I encourage you to, fill out the envelope and put it in the mail, send it back. I will tell you, if the Lord calls you to do it and you do it, it's a terrific feeling, because I often wonder what it would have been like to be Jesus, to restore all these people. What a great feeling that must have been for him. And in some pretty small way, perhaps you and I get to feel like that too when we help restore others.